Can you imagine writing a book, a super short one, just under 80 pages, that claims to solve every single problem in philosophy? Not just a few of them, all of them, for good? Well, that was the absolutely breathtaking goal of Ludwig Wittgenstein's Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, a book that was designed to map out the very limits of human thought.
Right from the preface, this is the book's mission statement, and it's really the key to the whole thing. See, Wittgenstein believed that philosophy's biggest headaches weren't actually real problems at all. They were just illusions we created by, well, misusing language. His plan was to draw a sharp, clean line between what we can talk about and what we can't. And by doing that, he hoped to silence all that confusion forever.
So what was this big problem that had been bugging philosophers for thousands of years? Think about all those huge debates over truth, beauty, goodness, God. Philosophers build these massive, complicated systems to try and answer these questions. But Wittgenstein came along and said they were all building on a foundation of sand. He argued that the real issue is that they'd failed to understand their most basic tool, language itself. Now this is a bombshell. He's not saying that Plato or Kant were wrong. No, he's saying something way more radical. He's saying their big questions, like, is the good more identical than the beautiful, are just pure nonsense. It's like asking, is the color green fast asleep? I mean, the sentence follows grammar rules, sure, but it's logically meaningless. It's just a jumble of words. Okay, so if philosophy is totally broken, how do you even start to fix it? Well, Wittgenstein starts with the most basic thing possible, the world itself. He figured we need to get crystal clear on what the world is actually made of before we can even hope to talk about it the right way.
This seems like a small change in wording, but it is a massive shift in thinking. For Wittgenstein, the world isn't some giant warehouse full of things, chairs and rocks and planets. No, the world is the sum total of all the facts. It's the fact that the chair is brown, the fact that the rock is on the ground, the fact that the planet orbits the sun. Reality isn't the stuff, it's how all the stuff is arranged.
All right, so the world is made of facts. How does our language hook into that reality? This brings us to Wittgenstein's most famous idea, what's called the picture theory of language. And it's a beautifully simple and totally game-changing concept. So to get the picture theory, we first have to talk about its building blocks. Wittgenstein called the simplest possible facts atomic facts. You can think of them like the individual Lego bricks of reality. An atomic fact is just the most basic arrangement of objects you can have, like the book is on the table. That's it. Everything else, all of reality, is just built up from these little guys. So here's the core idea. A sentence, or what he calls a proposition, works just like a picture. Think about it. In a drawing, you have elements, right? A sketch of a book, a sketch of a table, and they're arranged in a certain way. Well, in a sentence, the names for those objects are arranged in a specific logical structure that mirrors the structure of a possible fact out there in the world. The sentence itself becomes a logical model of reality. And this is the magic trick. A proposition shows you its meaning. You don't need a special decoder ring to understand the cat is on the mat. The sentence's structure itself paints a logical picture of that state of affairs. If that picture matches up with reality, then hey, the sentence is true. If it doesn't, it's false. But either way, it makes sense. It's a valid picture.
Okay, so this has all been building up to the main event. If meaningful language can only picture facts, these arrangements of objects in the world, then what about all the stuff that isn't a fact? What happens when we try to talk about that?
This is it. This is the question that the entire book has been leading us to. If our language is just this tool for taking pictures of the world, of facts, then what lies outside the frame? What's off limits? And here it is, the staggering, mind-blowing conclusion. All the most important things in human life, ethics, beauty, God, the meaning of it all, cannot be put into meaningful sentences. And why not? Because they aren't facts in the world. You can't point to goodness or beauty the way you can point to a cat on a mat. They're just not that kind of thing. They aren't states of affairs. This quote is a real mind-bender, right? For Wittgenstein, things like value and meaning just aren't on the list of facts about the universe. You could write down every single fact about everything, from the smallest atom to the largest galaxy, and you would never, ever find a fact called meaning or value. That stuff, he says, has to come from somewhere else, from a perspective outside the world of facts. Okay, but this leads to a super fascinating paradox. If all that talk about ethics and meaning is literally senseless, what about all the sentences in the Tractatus itself? Isn't Wittgenstein doing exactly what he says you can't do? Exactly. You see the problem. The book seems to be caught in its own trap. It's using philosophical language to prove that philosophical language is senseless. So is the whole project just one big contradiction? Well, not quite. Wittgenstein has one final, absolutely brilliant move up his sleeve.
And this is the famous ladder metaphor. Wittgenstein basically admits, yep, my own sentences are, strictly speaking, nonsense. But he says they're useful nonsense. They are a tool, a ladder, that's designed to get you to a higher place. You use the sentences in this book to climb up, and once you're at the top, you can finally see the world and language correctly.
So once you reach the top of that ladder, you get it. You see the limits of language clearly. And from that new perspective, the tool that you used to get there, the book itself, well, it's not needed anymore. You can just throw it away. The problems of philosophy don't get answered, they just dissolve. You see that they were never real problems to begin with.
And so we get to the final, solitary sentence of the entire book. It's not really a conclusion, it's more like a command. After you've climbed the ladder and seen the world clearly, you finally realize there's nothing left to say about the things that matter most. Those things can only be shown. They're felt in life, in art, in love, but they can never be captured by the factual pictures our language makes. And when you're faced with what is truly beyond words, the only logical, honest thing to do is to be silent.